Hello, everybody. I am Yolanda Marie. I do have another message from the Arcturians today, you guys. And yes, I do have my handy old iPhone here so I don't miss any of their channel. Okay, this is about two important layers of reality that are going on at the same time right now. And they're reminding me to remind everybody there are many layers of realities operating at the same time, but these are two very prominent layers in terms of the collective and the experience that we are having, okay? And the experience that we're moving into is what the Arcturians want to say there as well. Okay, because in terms of what you are witnessing and perceiving, it feels as though you're moving into this new thing. Many are calling it a new earth, okay? A new paradigm, a new structure, all right? But what they're really showing me are many structures, all right? And really there are many structures being birthed, structures within structures. This is ongoing for a while. This is a huge shift that's happening. A large evolution of humanity happening in a very shortened amount of time. We are quickening. This is a heightened expansion, a heightened ascension process, okay? And so many of you know that we've been over that a few times. So I'm just going to go over what the Arcturians gave to me here to give to everybody, to remind some of us, and some of you will be hearing this for the first time. Now, one of these layers of reality is like a tug of war. There's a push and a pull. There's one end trying to pull power away from the other, all operating within predominantly the same collective frequency, which is the issue that we're going to get to here, okay? Operating predominantly within the same collective frequency, and it's a dense layer of frequencies is what it is. A denser layer. Now, is it the layer that we moved from 20 years ago? No, it's not that dense anymore. But collectively speaking, it is when you combine all of that together, that conglomerate, if you will, of frequencies, it is much more dense. So you in your situation will be much lighter. Just to make this really, really clear what they're saying. You are much lighter, but collectively speaking, it's a denser layer of frequencies where there is the tug of war, the push and the pull. So what they're talking about here is polarity. Okay, now there's another layer of reality outside of that. So think of one bubble, and then outside of that bubble, there's a larger bubble. Okay, now this isn't really, they don't really mean that bubble is necessarily larger, but where it would appear like a ring around the inner layer. The inner layer is what we are, is what humanity is expanding from. Okay, so we're putting this as an image in your mind's eye to operate from, so that when you operate throughout your day, you can imagine yourself expanding in this way outwardly. These are the Arcturians, okay? This is a great way to picture your everyday movements to keep you more aligned with where you would prefer to be. Now, this second layer that they're talking about is a layer which is creating furtively, okay? Furtively outside of that previous layer. It's pulling in and using the lighter frequencies. This is what you're doing with these codes coming in. This is what the Arcturians are describing, okay? You're pulling in and using these lighter frequencies to create and project a more true reality. Now, this is regardless of your purpose, what you're doing. You may be surrounded by a lot of this dense activity. A lot of you have a really heavy, weighty purpose. Even if you're not intending to, you're lighting up people, okay? You are igniting a spark, if you will. And your purpose is going to be intertwined with some of these denser layers. So you're not wrong. What you're doing is not wrong. And many of you are more solely operating in this lighter layer where you're pulling in the lighter frequencies. So we just want to be clear there to say, it doesn't really matter where your purpose is aligned or where you are operating from in terms of what you're supposed to do while you're on the planet. Some of you are going to be intertwined within structures that are old right now or feel old because they have a lot of those weighty frequencies, but you're there to emanate the newer frequencies, to help shift it into a newer version of itself, or some of you will pretty much blow that up from the inside. You know what I mean? And it will just be, it will fall to rubble and it will be built anew. Not literally, of course. Figuratively speaking, it will come up and be built anew. All right, so that is definitely what some of you are here to do, but you're still, because of your awareness of your own expansion and what's going on the planet in terms of the shift in paradigm, you are pulling in this higher frequency information, these lighter light codes, okay? Lighter frequency light codes is a better way to say that, okay? Not so heavy, higher frequency, lighter in density, more expansive. They carry the innovation and they ignite the innovation in you, the code that you already carry. So all of this is going on. All right, so you're pulling that in, and so even if you are intertwined in the systems we just described, you are still creating and projecting this newer reality. Okay, and you might be surprised to know, some of you, because you might feel a lot of that weight, you're still less affected by the pull of those dense frequencies as long as you're in your awareness of who you are. You know, a consistent, ingrained knowing of who you are is what they're talking about here. So here's a channel from the Arcturians. I want to quote them more directly here. All of this information is from the Arcturians, okay? Like bullet pointed. A lot of you will see that often. Not recently, but if you go a couple videos back, you'll see where it's bullet points and it'll say from the Arcturians. That's information that comes through from the Arcturians. And then sometimes I will just quote it. And this I left quoted directly from them, a direct channel, okay? Now they're saying surrender completely to a new alignment. Okay? Surrender completely to a new alignment with your thoughts, with your focus. This is what will bring true sovereignty. This is what they're saying here. That's what's going to bring real sovereignty. They're saying completely independent of the systems that you no longer wish to adhere to or be a part of. And so they're saying surrendering via the mind, via the focus, is when you fully awaken from the distorted dream. And again, it doesn't mean you stop living out the purpose that you feel extremely intuitively called to, aligned with. You're each going to have a different purpose and feel that strongly. And if you don't feel it strongly yet, that's fine. Your purpose may just be, to exist and emanate the frequency. So don't panic. Don't worry so much about that. But what the Arcturians are saying is, via the mind and via the focus, surrender to what you wish it to be, rather than leaning emotionally into what's actually happening. And this is tough. It's a tough ask. We get into this a lot here, okay, if you're new. Okay. And they're saying that's when you fully awaken from this distorted dream that's been going on. Now they're saying short term, constant focus on the division, the disparity, will to a degree bring some relief. So you're not imagining that. You know, fighting the good fight does bring some temporary relief. The problem is that relief resides in the old frequency. It still is attached to the old systems and carries the old emotional memory, emotional baggage. And like attracts like, which means you're going to bring more of that into your experience. Okay, and that's going to weigh you down. You're lightening up, you're bringing in this new code and igniting and activating your innate memory, your DNA memory is what is sparking the new. So if you have things coming in and weighing that down, and you are so weighed down that it's difficult to focus on what you know is being created, so this spark will not be able to live to its full potential. And so, yes, in the short term, once again, it's going to bring some relief, right? But it won't be firmly rooted because it will be adhering to those rules and operating within the outdated structures and codes. And so, and I'm quoting them here, the work of moving forward will remain in the distance. So even as you tend to the wounded situations in your experience, see the solution at the same time. This is going to take practice, okay? This is going to take practice. We have been very used to just receiving messages and allowing them to seep into our subconscious and then move from that unconscious, subconscious motivation. Now we're moving into awareness. So it's a different thing we can choose. And so it's going to take some practice to choose to see the solutions, or even the fact that there will be a solution. So if you don't know what said solution is, just knowing that there are infinite possibilities for a solution. Don't try to navigate what that is through this old structure. Okay, that's going to be mind-boggling. It's going to be more advantageous to navigate from this higher perspective, knowing that those possibilities are there and they will present themselves in the higher frequency. The knowing of that will make the difference here. Okay, that just came through now. They're saying, even as you tend to these wounded situations, see the solution at the same time and allow yourself to rise into your healer more often than your warrior, so to speak. Okay, so from the perspective of this healer, this is what they're talking about. You're going to be able to access these codes of ascension that we've discussed here. These are going to be codes of future expansion, as the Arcturians are saying here, and innovation as well. So from that vantage point, within a high heart frequency orientation, that innovation is going to work for the whole. It's not going to be what we have experienced up to this point, where the innovation is hijacked by competition. Okay, let me keep reading here, okay? And by competition, we mean a competition for resources. So survival of the fittest. Okay, we're moving out of that, all right? And so the Arcturians are saying you will be mending and writing the code anew from that point. So the more you really flex this muscle, right? And repeat this practice of seeing this solution from this perspective, this higher perspective, you're actually helping to write new code, you guys, by doing this. So it's huge what we're talking about here. And so you will inherently be helping to move the collective consciousness out of aggression, out of war, okay, out of division, out of competition, out of that mentality, and into this pure heart expansion. Now, the last thing the Arcturians say here is this movement has already been called forward and is occurring now. So it is happening. A lot of you already feel this, and you might have this entire time been thinking, so this is already happening. I'm already able to see this, you know. I can see some of the old, but I definitely see the new. That's because it's true. It is already happening, okay? It's occurring now. But the Arcturians, they say, so we ask you, what do you wish to experience? This is the reminder here, okay? This is the activation here. What do you wish to experience? Anytime you get that cognitive dissonance, and now it's going to be more of a heart-mind dissonance because we're not operating just purely from the mental processing anymore and from the unconscious programming, right? The suggestive programming, we're coming out of that. And so it's more of a heart-mind dissonance. Okay, when you feel that tug that's not as familiar as it used to be, you're going to know to say to yourself, what do I wish to experience? What do I want to see happen here? Okay, your awareness is key. And so this is what the Arcturians really want to drive home here, you guys, okay? So this is big. This is a next level thing. It seems small, like, oh, that's no big deal. I'm just going to start remembering this. It's going to be huge. If you start to do this, you'll see the results in your life, probably first, likely first, but it's going to ripple out very quickly. There is so much going on the planet that people are experiencing. Now, remember, the new is already happening, but this is going to help bring the experience together more quickly. All right, so I hope that this made sense, beautiful soul family. All right, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. Namaste.